Ladies and gentlemen, one of the most insane finishes to a chess match has just occurred, and it happened between the top two players in the world in the finals of a tournament. In this video, I'm going to show you what went down. Magnus Carlsen, HIKARU Nakamura. They played in the winners final of the Chess.com Classic. It's a tournament going on at the time of recording this video. They played 4 games. First one to 2.5 points wins. And in the final moments of the final game, HIKARU resigned in a winning position. I'm going to show you the story of the match. Of course, you can jump ahead and skip to that game, but you really need to build up the story of this back and forth. This was an epic, epic final. Let's get into it. They are playing 10-minute chess with 0-second bonus time because that is the format for the Esports World Cup here in 2025. So they played 4 different games. In game number 1, Magnus opened with the move d4, okay? And HIKARU responded with the move d5. And then when Magnus went for the Queen's Gambit, HIKARU played this system that he's been playing recently, and I just don't understand how he keeps pulling it off. He plays the mirror image Queen's Gambit. White can now take either of these pawns. Taking this one would be quite bad, however, because black would occupy the center and very easily win that pawn back. But the best move is this. Now, here's the lore about this. This is what I said. This whole match had lore behind it. It had storylines. There were so many interesting components. Magnus watched HIKARU play this in the semi-final just an hour earlier and land himself in a little bit of a difficult position. So against knight to f6, a move where black develops a piece and wants to take back in a moment, white plays this really amazing move, e4. And the point of e4 to defend the center pawn is that you are baiting the black knight forward where it will be used as a target. So Magnus saw what HIKARU played earlier and went into this system. Now, queen a5 check from HIKARU, trying to win the pawn back. Magnus playing the best move. Again, Magnus already studied HIKARU before this game. This is what's so fascinating about this. HIKARU took the bishop. Magnus went here. HIKARU traded the queen. And now for a brief moment, it looks like white is just completely crushing because white has an extra pawn. It's not easy for black to win these pawns back. b4, knight b3, etc. But HIKARU plays the best move, which is g6. HIKARU already memorized all of this. Knight gf3 was the move chosen. HIKARU went bishop to g7. Long castle and castle. Now, again, Magnus had studied the opening that HIKARU was going to play, so he knew all of this was going to happen. He played bishop c4, which is the best move. He played rook he1, which is the best move. He went knight d, and HIKARU went knight d7. And Magnus got the best possible version of this position. But HIKARU was just so good in this game. h3, bishop takes, knight takes, and HIKARU immediately stabilizing the position. Although Magnus is up a pawn, you look at the position, you go, oh, Magnus is just going to win here. I mean, he's going to bring the pawn forward. He has 6 pawns to 5. He has a pawn advantage. Why is the position equal? Position is equal because of the nature of opposite colored bishop positions. It's very difficult for white to actually prove an advantage here, as black is going to just simply block the position on the dark squares, which is exactly what HIKARU began doing. Watch this. He just creates a little bit of counterplay, plants the knight on the c3 square, and actually, despite being a full pawn up, Magnus is not even doing well. And here, Magnus played a completely ridiculous move. He played d6, that's not the ridiculous move, d7, and knight to d2. Magnus baited HIKARU into taking this, or baited HIKARU into taking the knight, or baited HIKARU to go backwards. But he blundered bishop g5. The best player in the world saw a ghost, he saw something, and he just simply let himself get pinned, and now he's going to have to lose one of his rooks. Magnus gets dropped with a punch in the middle of this game with 4 minutes on the clock. But he finds the best move, pawn to f4. What does that move even do? It loses a pawn for nothing, and you still have the same problem. Wrong. Rook to d4. Now, if the knight takes, I'm not going to lose a rook. I'm going to go after the bishop. So the bishop takes, but I'm not going to take. I play king d1. And while your knight is hanging, so is your bishop. Somehow, Magnus Carlsen, despite making a catastrophic mistake, regains his composure within 30 seconds and finds all the best moves. Now here, the best move for black is to put the bishop on f4, but it's not really clear why that is. HIKARU plays a couple of natural moves, but before you know it, Magnus is not even worse. He just played a tremendous mistake. And yet, within moments, not only is he not losing, he is completely equalizing the endgame because of the opposite-colored bishops. Yes, he's down a pawn, but there's no way to prove the advantage with black. King to g2, Hikaru tries his best. Folks, look at the clock. Hikaru down to 90 seconds. And Magnus, despite making that massive, massive mistake, stabilizes the game, and by the end of the game, could even be playing for something a little bit more, trying to win these pawns. By the end of the game, Magnus has 229, Hikaru down to 50 seconds, and the players make a draw after they traded some pieces, and this is just, I mean, nobody can make progress. It's completely stuck position. Players made a draw. I mean, you talk about an epic back and forth clash. The first game was tense. I mean, Hikaru played his signature opening. Magnus knew everything. He knew every moment of this opening that could possibly happen. But he couldn't break through. Now, in the second game, Hikaru went back to a system that he's played quite a bit. He likes to play these English, ready style games with the knight f3. And in this game, folks, to get revenge for the first game that just took place, Magnus Carlsen in this game played a setup that absolutely kills the game. Bishop to g4. Here, he traded all his bishops. Watch this. He trades his one bishop. He trades the second bishop. And he castles, and Hikaru's bishops are just eating rocks. They're not doing anything. Magnus gave away both bishops, completely stabilized the center. By the middle game, they had traded all the rooks, and in less than 20 moves, he didn't even let Hikaru get going. He said that first game was a fluke. You're not going to get anything against me. I'm going to take your pieces. And maybe there were very, very brief moments in this game where a game was possible. The center pawns were traded. The queens were traded. Around here, the broadcast crashed as well. But we managed to, get out of there. And the players make a draw after not too much of a fight. Everything. Magnus, the recap of this game was 1 minute long. I mean, you talk about like that first game, right? Magnus playing deep into Hikaru's opening. Hikaru knows that Magnus knows what he's doing. Like just the mental warfare there. And then getting to this position and blundering and Hikaru immediately taking control of the game, but not being able to capitalize. Magnus strikes back with a fantastic defensive effort. And now, this is going to look really familiar. Game number 3 of 4. Absolutely epic stuff. Takes knight f6, e4. This looks all familiar. Magnus says, I don't believe you, Hikaru. I don't believe that this opening can be any good. Castles, castles, bishop c4. It's the same exact thing as the first game. 11 identical moves. It's the same exact position. Bishop g4. What was played in this game? Bishop g4. What was played in this game? Rook e1, knight d7. Now, in that game, in this first game, in this position, Magnus went h3. In this game, Magnus plays b4. And the best move for black here is to put the bishop on c3 to give up this pawn. And if white goes here, then black plays a5. You have to do it like this. This bishop needs to be here. Hikaru plays a5 right away. The move order has been mixed up. And now, white has an opportunity to take a big advantage with c6 followed by b5. Something like c6, takes, knight b6, and b5. And these pawns are so strong. Not so easy to play this, but this is what Magnus could do. Hikaru had to play bishop c3 and then a5. But Magnus misses the idea. He plays rook takes c7. But he's Magnus, damn it. He's got an idea of his own. And my guy, Magnus Carlsen, the idea he plays here is so nasty. The point is, black is going to take on b4, opening up all of these active lines for his pieces. Now Magnus plays h3, and this is the idea. Bishop takes f3. Obviously, you just take back. Black goes here, right? No. Bishop takes f3. Magnus Carlsen plays rook takes d7. This man sacrificed the rook. Folks, h3 bishop takes, rook takes knight, looks like a 600 elo blunder. It looks like you just forgot the bishop was there. He sacrifices the rook. And his point is, I have a dominant rook. I have two connected pawns. The value of my pawns, as they are connected and very close to promotion, the value goes up. It's not a one-point pawn anymore. Also, I have a bishop staring right at your king. In the endgame, the value of rooks and bishops and knights converges. It gets closer. 3-5, the rook and the knight sometimes 3.5, 4.5, maybe 4-4. Watch what happens. Hikaru, though, finds the best defensive move. And when the knight goes here, he sacks his bishop. This is incredible. This is 99 offense, 99 defense. He gives away the bishop. Why? Because he has this. He's going to immediately gain counterplay, and now we're not converging rook and knight value. We're separating, right? The rook is going to become very, very powerful. Magnus says, okay, yeah, you took one of my pawns. I don't need it. I need one pawn, one rook, one knight, one bishop. I'm a very, very simple Scandinavian guy. All right? He's just going to target Hikaru here on the back rank. Hikaru here plays b6, stabilizing. Magnus goes knight g5. Every piece in the white position is asking a question for black. What does Hikaru do here? The best move for black is to attack the knight right away, to force it to move, and then make a run for it. Be brave. I know that in this position, this is scary, but there's no useful check. Knight here, the king runs out. Hikaru needed to attack the knight right away. He didn't. He went here. Still, knight e6 check is juicy. All of us would play this move, winning the rook. Here, Magnus played the only move that continues to keep this advantage. And that move is not findable. You can see it up there, but that move is pawn to f4. This move doesn't even begin to make sense. He played this move in 45 seconds. The point of this move is you don't have to rush. Black has no moves. If black goes here, you take the pawn, you win the rook. If black goes anywhere else, you take this pawn or you fork, you win the rook, and you've now made advancements. And this is so important because black's king wants to run to e5. And you have now prevented that. h6, knight e6, king f6, knight f8, rook f8, king e2. The king can't come closer. Black plays g5, king f3, pawn takes, king takes. This is the stuff legends are made of. We haven't even made it to the whole point of the video, which is Hikaru resigning in the losing position. This is what I'm telling you. You need to know the lore of this match. This match was, and you talk about a back and forth, all right? You talk about a back and forth. You talk about the Real Madrid versus Barcelona recently, all right, here in 25. I mean, oh my goodness. Hikaru goes h5. Magnus plays g4. Now here Magnus stumbles a little bit. He kind of was looking for a way to win this. The only way to win this is to run the king over there. But that's not even the end of it. That's not even the end of it. White has to lose the pawn, allowing black to get counterplay potentially. But the king is simply too strong. And by the end of this sequence, white is going to win the pawn. But how does white win this game? White is trying to make a queen. Black is probably going to give up the bishop for the pawn, right? And then black is going to try to win this pawn. But everything is perfectly set up in white's position that it is impossible to do that. Rook f8, king e4, bishop a4, Magnus wins a pawn, and now Magnus keeps an eye on this pawn, keeps an eye on this pawn. He has to queen this pawn, win the bishop, and not lose his remaining pawn. If he loses the remaining pawn, it's a draw. This man maneuvers absolutely seamlessly, brings his king to the optimal position, defends everything, blocks the rook. The king is going to d6. The pawn is going to promote. The bishop is going to protect the pawn. Hikaru resigns. This game was played. This game was played at like 99% accuracy for white and 98% accuracy for black. This was unstoppable force meets immovable object, and unstoppable force won. I mean, you talk about getting the full Magnus effect. There is nothing more like it than f4. Hikaru needed to force the knight to go to, but that's the game you play. You make one inaccuracy. Hikaru made one inaccuracy, and Magnus suffocated him. This is what it's like to play this man. He plays the pawn move. He brings the king. He understands the game at a level like nobody else. Now, with all that said, what happened in this final game? It's 2-1. Hikaru has to win to force an Armageddon game for who wins the winner's final, right? Watch this. He plays knight f3, knight f6. Credit to Magnus, by the way, because when you're playing black and you want to not lose, you could just copy. I mean, you could just play the same thing. Magnus tries to get a game. I mean, he tries to make it imbalanced. Now we have kind of a weird Sicilian defense. And by move 10, we have a very weird position. We have this. This opening resembles a Sicilian defense closed variation, Grand Prix attack. I know. You guys are watching this like, why do chess players name things so stupidly and ridiculously? Yeah, I know. Listen, don't blame me, all right? But now Hikaru has to build up an attack, and he does. He plays g4. You got 10 minutes on the clock against the best player in the world, and maybe the best player of all time. Maybe the best player who will ever live. I don't know if there's going to be another one. I have no idea. We'll see. Probably in the age of computers. And you got to beat him. How do you beat him? How do you beat the final boss of the game? Especially considering he is ignoring your attack. He is baiting you forward. Meanwhile, he is attacking you on the other side of the board. He is meeting your energy with energy of his own. Pawn going to b4. The point is that if you start a kingside attack against somebody, there are two ways to strike back. You either strike back in the middle or you strike back on the other side of the board. Why? Because the person is going to bring all of their forces and attention this way, which means the other sides will lose a little bit of attention. And sometimes when you get in on those other sides, the position very quickly falls apart. So queen g3, pawn takes, and now pawn takes. Protecting this, but we already see some openings over here, and that is why Magnus plays this move bishop to a6. Okay? He attacks the pawn on d3. By attack, I mean, maybe not exactly an attack because it's protected, but he keeps an eye on it because white wanted to very easily bring some pieces forward, and now you can't because your queen needs to protect the pawn. You also don't want to play rook d1 because your rook needs to support the attack. HIKARU plays knight d2. Magnus plays queen a5, immediately taking advantage of the fact that this knight has moved and no longer protects the pawn on the c3 square, right? So now this is hanging. That would attack the rook. That would attack this. HIKARU needs to now put the bishop there. Instead of putting it here in the center where he wanted, it's passive, not massive. It's defending this pawn. It's not looking too great. Black has a few moves here that can immediately begin putting pressure, but he opts for queen b5. That's kind of an anti-Magnus move. I mean, if I know Magnus, he probably preferred to keep the bishop open. He didn't like something, probably didn't like that this move came with a tempo in the future. So he went queen b5 because it forces the move knight to c4 and now knight to a5. And again, we see that Magnus has made HIKARU play there. HIKARU wants to be playing here. That's where he wants to win this game. But Magnus has forced him to switch the other side of the board and play over there. Now, knight takes a5. The point of knight takes a5 is not the trade. The point of knight takes a5 and knight a5 in general was to remove the defense of this bishop, and Magnus has infiltrated. So Magnus played b5, b4, b takes, queen b6, and is now in on b2. I just talked about this. This is one of the ways of creating counterplay. Magnus has broken through into the white position, into the white castle, into the white kingdom, and is going to infiltrate and deal damage to slow down this attack. And I mean, I gotta tell you, this bishop would have been an amazing long-range piece, but it's not there anymore. HIKARU goes c4. This move defends the pawn from danger and also blocks the bishop. And maybe this knight will come back, but also it might go forward. You don't know. Now e5. There is one idea and one idea only behind the move e5. The point of e5 is to open up this diagonal for the bishop. It's for the black bishop now to not be a defensive piece, but also an offensive piece. Another idea behind e5 is that the open file for the rook will cause chaos in the white position. A third idea behind the move e5 is that the queen and the bishop will join on the e3 square, and that is exactly what Magnus did. He was playing a flawless counter-attacking mix with defending, pure defending against HIKARU's attack, while also creating threats of his own. HIKARU went pawn takes g6. You will notice Magnus has allowed a full winning of a pawn. Pawn takes, queen takes, check. Pawn takes, right? There's a few things that white can do here. He can just bring in the knight. He can take a pawn with a check. When you are in a situation which is a must-win game, what do? You have to take the risk. Queen takes g6. The only way that HIKARU is going to win this game is playing like this. The black bishop would never go back here. Instead, we play king to h8. And I think what Magnus liked about this is his king is on the h-file, and now his rooks are going to be able to go on the g-file and actually launch vicious counterplay against HIKARU's position. HIKARU's up a pawn, but can you find it? You ever done Where's Waldo? Where's Waldo in this position? And Waldo is HIKARU's extra pawn. It's right here. Let me tell you something right now. That does not feel like an extra pawn. It doesn't feel like an extra pawn. It's like saying I have an extra window in my room, but the window is, I don't have a window. I never built the last wall of the room. So in this position, we have HIKARU coming back, Magnus gives a check, and the king goes to h1, and Magnus begins the counterplay. At this point, I thought it's still totally within HIKARU's control to win this game. Absolutely within his control. He brings the queen back to the h5 square. He has pressure on the bishop, pressure on the king. Magnus can't play the move rook takes g2 in this position because he doesn't have enough of an attack. Okay? He probably should play rook f8 then bring the bishop, right? And that's what he should do. Now here, if you had the patience to make it 20 minutes, maybe you just clicked ahead because you don't have the attention span and you just want to see this moment, and then you don't want to go watch your Minecraft or your Roblox or your brain rot or your politics or your world news or any of that other sad stuff that's going on around the world. But you should have watched the whole thing, because now Magnus Carlsen, for the second time in 2 games, sacrifices the rook. Rook takes g2, blowing down the door of Hikaru's position. Rook takes g2, bringing the king forward. And both guys calculated here the following sequence. King takes g2, rook g8 check. The king has to go back to the corner. The bishop goes back to c8, which attacks the knight. White has rook to f3, which defends the knight and attacks the queen. The queen comes here, pinning the rook to the queen. Hikaru brings the rook to g1, and that bishop goes right here, attacking the queen, attacking the rook, and the game is over. You cannot take the bishop because the queen would take the rook with check, and then you lose. Now, I'm sure everybody saw that. King takes, rook g8, king h1, bishop c8, rook f3, queen e2, rook g1. Game is over. Bishop g4. And in this position, Hikaru sat back, couldn't believe what he was looking at, and resigned the game. Now, keep in mind, Hikaru does not play this game with this. So in his mind, he also doesn't play the game with this. In his mind, his queen is attacked, his rook is hanging. When the rook is taken, it's mate. You just lose. The only move you have here with white is rook takes. And after queen takes, it's a check, which means you're going to lose this rook. And if you go here, you lose this, or you get mated, right? Depends which one Magnus wants to do. Does he want to checkmate you, or does he want to, win your queen? What he missed, which is kind of crazy. Kind of crazy. They both missed it. Magnus played this move and saw it immediately, because that's what happens. The move he missed is rook g3. You move the rook out of danger. You make a battery with your rook. The bishop cannot take the queen. It's mate. Not only that, you are actually threatening this move. You are actually threatening to take... That is why, if you look at the analysis now, it shows that black's best move is to sack the queen. Sack the queen, do this, go here, and play down an exchange. Rook f2, and game goes on. Maybe Magnus would have won this as well, but I kind of doubt it. And Hikaru got here and resigned. Chess is a cruel, cruel game. It is a brutal game. And there is something to be said for the fact that if I play this against Hikaru, I think Hikaru finds rook g3 within 5 seconds. It's just one of these things. You're hanging here, rook g3 here. It's the Magnus effect. You play the best player in the world, there is an aura. When he plays a combination against you within seconds, he played rook g2, 0.7, 2 seconds, 1 second, 1 second. And that was that. And when Hikaru played rook g1, and here came bishop g4, it was about 5 seconds, and then Hikaru resigned. Absolutely wild. Absolutely wild. This is the impact that it has on you, playing against Magnus Carlsen for probably a decade and a half, if not over 2 decades. If Hikaru had played rook g3, we would have had a playoff. If Hikaru played rook g3, he might have won the playoff. I don't know. Rook g3 is such a cold shower. It's crazy. But it is what it is. Magnus won in the most insane fashion. Wow, what more is there to say? It's just such a wild thing. I've never seen this in a high level with such a stake, but it happens, man. It happens, And, I got to tell you, when Hikaru plays against Magnus, I root for Hikaru. Like, I root for it to be a closer rivalry with any player in Magnus. When you watch Magnus, I am in awe of his dominance, but I don't want him to win everything, Like, you get what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not like rooting for your favorite sports team. Like, would you root for your favorite sports team if they won 5-0 every single time? You kind of want it to be like 5-4. Like, give me a heart attack, but maybe win. this rivalry is so intense. And I mean, people say it's not a rivalry. He beats Hikaru whenever they play, but he beats everybody whenever they play. If we have one human we need to bring to a rapid game or a blitz game against Magnus, with the highest chance of winning, it's probably Hikaru. It's Hikaru, guys. All right? Until he actually retires. Crazy stuff. Absolutely crazy. What a match. That's all I have for you today. You are free to now go peruse your YouTube algorithm for whatever else you'd like to watch, or Facebook algorithm, or wherever we're posting this. Don't know. Get out of here.